God. Target Iraq, the battle for Baghdad. This is a special edition of NBC Nightly News with Tom Brokaw.
Good evening. 3 weeks ago tonight, the United States made that first surprising strike at a residence of Saddam Hussein in Baghdad, the opening shot in what the Pentagon called Operation Iraqi Freedom. Tonight, after lightning moves and pitched battles in the deserts and cities of Iraq, the long, brutal rule of Saddam Hussein is over. And although there remains work to do, the war President Bush and his top advisors declared on Iraq has won the day in dazzling and dramatic fashion in Baghdad and throughout much of that country. Overjoyed Iraqis swarmed into the streets of Baghdad, dancing, celebrating, ripping up images of Saddam Hussein, welcoming U.S. Marines with flowers and kisses. But this was the symbolic image of the day, an act unthinkable until now. Iraqi citizens banging and chipping away at a huge Saddam statue in the heart of the city. With some help from an American military vehicle, the heavy bronze statue came tumbling down, its head dragged on a rope through the streets of the capital. Saddam Hussein, whose regime had terrorized and terrified his people, finally down and out. But the scenes of jubilation we saw in Baghdad today took place in a relatively small area of the city center. Much of the capital is not yet under U.S. control. U.S. troops on the ground could still face some heavy fighting. Caution is the watchword tonight at the Pentagon and in the field. With more on that, we turn now to NBC's Pentagon correspondent Jim Miklaszewski for the big picture once again. Jim?
Tom, Iraqis may be dancing in the streets of Baghdad, but officials here at the Pentagon warn there's still plenty of work and fighting to be done.
This is what Liberation Day sounded like in western Baghdad. U.S. Army troops still having to fight their way into the city today, ambushed by Iraqi forces well hidden in civilian neighborhoods. Not in large numbers, but small teams of Iraqi military and militia using hit-and-run guerrilla tactics. Despite today's celebrations, American troops control only 20 to 30% of the city of Baghdad. Besides small roving bands of armed militia, there are 15 to 20,000 Iraqi Special Republican Guards and security forces who have melted away into the city and still pose a serious potential threat. Defense Secretary Rumsfeld warns this war is far from over.
There's a lot more fighting that's going to be done. More people are going to be killed. Let there be no doubt.
In northern Iraq, where U.S. warplanes are still pounding away at Iraqi army forces around Mosul and Kirkuk, the major ground war hasn't even started.
There are about 10-plus regular army divisions left in the north, and perhaps as much as one brigade of a Republican Guards division up there.
But it's feared the toughest battle could still be fought against Republican Guard forces guarding Tikrit, Saddam Hussein's birthplace. While in Baghdad today, an exuberant U.S. Marine draped the American flag over the head of a Saddam Hussein statue. Pentagon officials feared it sent the wrong signal about U.S. intentions. But after making his point, the Marine voluntarily removed the flag.
Just in case the war drags on, Pentagon officials tell NBC News that the U.S. military's newest, most powerful bomb, the 21,000-pound Moab, has just been delivered to Iraq, ready to use if those Iraqi forces dig in and refuse to give up the fight. Tom?
NBC Jim Miklaszewski at the Pentagon tonight. And NBC's Brian Williams has now made his way to Baghdad under very difficult circumstances, illuminated only by flashlights. Brian, what can you tell us about the fighting that is still going on? Is that evident tonight in the city?
Well, Tom, it is. Flashes on the horizon, one concussion about a minute ago that really shook the air and the ground, swung open a warehouse door not far from here. I should set the scene. We are with an element of the U.S. Army, lit by two flashlights I happen to have in my backpack, making the best with what we have. And while today's television pictures out of the middle of town in the center of the city of Baghdad might have looked like the Champs-Élysées in 1945 to people, while people may look back someday and brand this VI Day for the way it looked and felt to the people in the city, that comes as a great surprise to elements of the U.S. Army who are in and around the city, where they still point to orange glows all over the horizon, one spot in particular, and will tell you about ongoing engagements, firefights, artillery battles tonight. No one is anything short of assured of a coalition victory, of course. It's just high-tech and overwhelming firepower at this point. But a lot of Baghdad, for that matter, a lot of Iraq, is still considered a hot zone. There are parts of air travel, even militarily, that are still considered hot here. And while, again, we saw 2 or 3 live camera angles today, it might have given off the wrong impression. When we related the television pictures here to elements of the U.S. Army, they were surprised to hear that. They are still fighting a war. Folks here were just in a gun battle, an engagement tonight. This is not shared generally. They will start to feel better when they get out and about. They're doing probing runs into the city by day. So again, flashes and concussions here by night, a lot of noise and a lot of light out in the distance. This will be slow going, mile by mile, but they are buoyed by what they saw downtown today. Tom?
All right, thanks very much. NBC's Brian Williams tonight on a video phone illuminated by flashlights. This day that will mark the end of the Saddam rule unfolded swiftly and in full view of television cameras in the heart of Baghdad. It was reality television that conjured up memories of the end of the Soviet Union. Ian Glover James of our British partner ITN was there to cover it.
As American tanks rolled unopposed into central Baghdad, Iraqi people rolled out to meet them, greeting them as liberators. There have been scenes of celebration at the fall of the regime. Across Baghdad, the looting has continued since word swept across communities that Saddam's henchmen had pulled out. It may be anarchy, it may be lawlessness, but it's also the first real freedom these people have tasted in decades. This is the predominantly Shiite Muslim area of Baghdad, named Saddam City. It won't be called that for much longer. And if anyone had any lingering doubts about whether these people supported the military intervention, many in halting English made their views clear.
No Saddam! No Saddam! No Saddam!
This man vented his frustration and fury by striking Saddam's image with his shoe, a traditional insult. Slapping Saddam with a shoe was a popular activity today. Across Baghdad, the looters are reported to have plundered major sites, including the UN headquarters and the bombed Olympic Committee building, once run by Saddam's eldest son, Uday. People are seizing whatever they can, from foodstuffs to mattresses, anything of value. Many of the more frenzied scenes were said to be in Saddam City, impoverished, run down, deliberately kept under the thumb of the Iraqi regime. Not anymore.
Thank you, Mr. Bush. We very like Mr. Bush. Mr. Bush, okay.
The Americans will have to restore order, and soon. But for the time, Baghdad belongs to the people, no longer Saddam Hussein and his Ba'ath Party dictatorship.
Ian Glover James from our British partner ITN. One of those who made his way into the city from the south today was NBC's Bob Arnott, traveling with the 1st Marines. His memorable day now in his own words.
Tom, today the 1st Marine Expeditionary Force moved in strength through Baghdad, fighting house to house. They had overhead snipers trying to protect Marines on the ground, and because of the threat of rocket-propelled grenades, really had to move by foot. This morning I went through the U.S. Marine lines out into the streets and found that I was hugged and kissed, that people said, "Go, go, USA, go, go, George Bush, yes, Bush, yes, Bush," down, and they'd stomp their feet down Saddam Hussein. The most remarkable thing I saw was when an M1A1 Abrams tank actually blasted through the wall of a cigarette factory, and the crowd cheered. We didn't know why they cheered until we saw that they could go in and steal as many packs of cigarettes as they wanted to. But literally within 5 minutes, it was, could we have some clean water? We have no clean water. How about some food? And then real fears about their future. What do we do? Where do we go? And a complete absence of any kind of civil administration. I was able to make my way over from East Baghdad, here the center of town, as that statue was being taken down. Treacherous journey in that there were 4 or 5 firefights along the way. including those with the use of the 155mm howitzer that would pound enemy positions on the way in. Here in town tonight, it is eerily quiet. There's no one on the streets. There are no vehicles on the streets. There are no lights. There's a little light arms fire here and there. U.S. Marines tomorrow morning expecting to be out on the streets in strength again, going house by house, block by block, trying to find the Fedayeen and trying to find any semblance of the Republican Guard, this sort of vaunted force that was supposed to offer such stiff resistance, but in the end fell by the wayside. Tom,
NBC's,
back to you.
Thanks very much. NBC's Bob Arnott tonight, in his own words. While some of Baghdad is now under U.S. control, northern Iraq is still another story. That's home to some of Saddam Hussein's most fierce defenders and his worst enemies. Here's NBC's Tom Aspel.
Iraqi Kurdistan erupted in street parties when news broke that American troops were all over Baghdad. Saddam Hussein saw the Kurds as a despised minority. Now they see him stripped of power.
I feel very proud that at long last we have gotten rid of Saddam Hussein. Thank you to the United States. Thank you to the United Kingdom.
In Sulaymaniyah, the biggest celebration the city has ever seen. In Erbil, they defaced the dictator's picture on Iraqi banknotes, the ultimate insult from people who've lived with oppression and poverty for decades.
For more than 30 years, Iraqi Kurds were primary victims of Saddam Hussein's cruelty. Targets for organized Ba'ath Party campaigns of torture, rape, mass murder, even chemical extermination.
Today they began losing their fear. But the war is far from over in northern Iraq. On the western edge of Kurdistan, the oil field cities of Mosul and Kirkuk are still controlled by Saddam Hussein's army. Kurdish Peshmerga guerrillas, helped by American Special Operations Forces, are inching towards the city's defensive lines. Today, Iraqi troops abandoned a key defensive position 9 miles from Mosul.
It shows that the Iraqi army is completely demoralized. Otherwise, they would not have given up this position so easily.
But U.S. intelligence services are still not sure how strong the Iraqi army is around the northern oil fields, or how loyal it remains to a crumbling regime. Tom Aspel, NBC News, Sulaymaniyah, northern Iraq.
Another reminder that this war is not over. The Pentagon today issued these updated numbers of American casualties in Iraq. Now 101 killed, 11 missing in action, and also listed as wounded, 399 altogether. Early this morning, before dawn, about 4 dozen of the wounded arrived at Lackland Air Force Base, which is in Texas. All soon will be transferred to military hospitals closer to their homes. And what about America's prisoners of war? There are 7 Americans listed by the U.S. military as prisoners of war. The Pentagon today warned Iraq that when the war ends, the U.S. expects to find all of them in good health, having been treated properly. Next up on NBC Nightly News, one of the still unanswered questions on the momentous day: where is Saddam Hussein? But first, another image from the front lines. Veteran British war correspondent Michael Nicholson, just moments after that huge statue of Saddam came tumbling down.
Having covered the news for the last 40 years, I don't think I've ever seen anything quite like it. The death of Saddam Hussein symbolically toppled by the Americans at 10 minutes to 7 on Wednesday, the 9th of April. The day have arrived, and you know, not a shot has been fired in anger against them. How about that?
Oh.
What's the matter, Frank?
Why'd I eat that pizza?
You love pizza.
I knew I'd get heartburn.
Didn't you start taking that prescription?
Yeah, but it won't kick in fully till tomorrow.
You have heartburn tonight.
Oh!
The leading prescription can take up to a day or more to fully work. It's not for occasional heartburn. Zantac 75 works fast, right when you need it, even at night when heartburn can be at its worst. Zantac, fast heartburn relief for people who hate to wait.
Oh!
Bob, you're snoring. Bob?
Once upon a time, a dirty floor meant a lot of work. Not anymore, thanks to America's #1 mopping system, Clorox Ready Mop. Simply squirt, and the special Clorox floor cleaner gets your whole floor sparkling clean. The kind of clean you expect from Clorox. No more buckets, no more filthy water. When you're done, just toss the pad, dirt and all. Works great on wood, too. Clorox Ready Mop, the extraordinary mop in a box from Clorox.
My wallet. My credit card was in it.
You did have a Capital One no-hassle card, right?
No.
Relax. Who's gonna find it out here?
Whether your card is lost or stolen, with a Capital One no-hassle card, you're not liable for a penny. Plus, you get the nation's lowest fixed rates.
What's in your wallet?
Hello? It's Dr. Ross. I have your colon polyp test results. You're fine.
Help stay that way with new Caltrate Colon Health. You may help reduce the risk of recurrent colon polyps, a colon cancer risk factor. Don't wait. Take new Caltrate Colon Health.
Introducing a new overnight laxative, Freelax. These contain stimulants that can jolt your system and cause cramps. Freelax is different. It's stimulant-free and cramp-free. It's new, different. It's Freelax. Overnight relief without cramps. Freelax.
Tonight, the fall of Baghdad. Coalition forces roll into the center of the city. Is this the beginning of the end? A special live dateline tonight, 8/7 Central on NBC.
U.S. officials have said from the beginning that killing or capturing Saddam Hussein is a high priority, but tonight he remains missing in action. NBC's chief foreign affairs correspondent Andrea Mitchell joins us now from the State Department. Andrea, what's the latest there?
Well, Tom, as the regime collapses, the big mystery tonight is what has happened to Saddam Hussein. He is clearly toppled. Intelligence sources tell NBC News there is no longer any sign of central authority in Baghdad. No one showed up for work at government offices today. Not even the information minister to spin his version of the government's collapse.
It doesn't appear to be any police presence at all, no military structure, very little command and control being exercised by military forces.
The only visible Iraqi official, the usually combative UN ambassador, conceded today it is over.
I have no relationship with Saddam, so I can't tell you.
But in the chaos of his capital, is Saddam alive or dead?
He's not been around. He's not active. Therefore, he's either dead or he's incapacitated or he's healthy and cowering in some tunnel someplace.
There are as many theories as possible Saddam body doubles. British intelligence, based on one of their spies, is that he survived Monday's bombing but was wounded and escaped north, possibly to his hometown of Tikrit, or to Mosul, closer to the Syrian border. U.S. officials say it is unlikely Saddam could get from Baghdad to Tikrit in recent days since U.S. air power pulverized those escape routes, including the tunnels. Could he get to Syria? Today, the U.S. said Syria had ignored warnings to close its borders.
Senior regime people are moving out of Iraq into Syria, and Syria is continuing to send things into Iraq. We find it notably unhelpful.
Or U.S. officials say the sudden collapse of the regime could mean Saddam did die in Monday's bombing.
Is he alive? And as long as he's alive, some of his henchmen are likely to fight to the end.
That's why Saddam's defenders disappeared so suddenly. One top U.S. official said it's like the Bob Dylan line. You don't need a weatherman to know which way the wind blows. Tom?
Thanks very much, NBC's Andrea Mitchell tonight. Next, as NBC Nightly News continues a special edition, it may be over for Saddam, but what's next for Iraq and for the American fighting force still there?
When you have acid reflux disease, heartburn boils up again and again.
But bad as the heartburn can be, the real threat is what lies beneath.
Over time, that burning acid could wear away the lining of your esophagus, and even if your heartburn symptoms aren't severe, the damage can be.
I didn't know.
I didn't know.
Your doctor knows about a purple pill called Nexium. Nexium goes to the source of the problem, actually reducing the amount of acid your body creates.
For many people, one prescription Nexium a day provides complete 24-hour
day and night heartburn relief.
And importantly, Nexium is proven to heal acid reflux erosions in the esophagus. Other serious stomach conditions may still exist. The most common side effects of Nexium are headache, diarrhea, and abdominal pain. Talk to your doctor and call this number for more information and a free trial offer for Nexium.
Relieve the heartburn, heal the damage. It's possible with the purple pill called Nexium.
Disciplined investing. It's not about following the crowd. At T. Rowe Price, our independent research means we're not deceived by every market ripple, and we don't chase every fad. Over 70% of our mutual funds beat their 3-, 5-, and 10-year Lipper averages. We have the experience to know what works and the insight to find real opportunity. T. Rowe Price. Invest with confidence.
I deal with life and death situations.
We touch a lot of lives every day.
I can't have a bad day.
It's a fight all the way, and for me, I have to win that fight.
People's lives are in your hands.
I've seen kindness heal.
I never get bored. I saved a life.
I know I make a difference.
This is who I am.
There's nothing I'd rather be.
I am a nurse. I'm a nurse.
I'm a nurse.
I'm a nurse.
I'm a nurse.
Be a nurse. A message of caring from Johnson & Johnson.
Every day for thousands of years, Old Faithful has been, well, faithful. You can almost set your watch by it.
What causes it to stay so regular?
Stay regular with Metamucil Daily Fiber Therapy. It works with you, naturally.
We just can't say.
Get regular, stay regular. The natural way. Now available in powder, wafers, and capsules.
Look at these dramatic pictures. It's almost like the fall of the Berlin Wall.
When the story matters, people turn to today.
President George W. Bush received a call today from another President Bush, his father, who was very anxious about the outcome of this war. And after the conversation, the father said, "It's just an amazing day, good for the country and good for others." As for the son, that President Bush was happy, but with his advisors, he was warning that this is not over. NBC's White House correspondent David Gregory tonight has more on all of that.
With the most dramatic evidence yet of Saddam's collapsing power, many ask what's next for Iraq and the U.S. troops fighting to liberate it. Today, the vice president welcomed the news from Baghdad, but remained cautious. The war, he said, is not over.
In dealing with such an enemy, we must expect vicious tactics until the regime's final breath. The hardest combat could still be ahead of us.
At the White House, aides said the president eagerly watched live television coverage of the street scenes in Baghdad, but sought to rein in his excitement. That's because key objectives remain unmet. One priority is securing Iraq's weapons of mass destruction. Today, Defense Secretary Rumsfeld offered a financial incentive to any Iraqi who could prevent the regime from hiding evidence of their existence.
Rewards are available to those who help us prevent the disappearance of personnel, documentation, and materials.
By law, when the fighting stops, the U.S.-led coalition will become an occupying force, which requires it to provide basic services for the Iraqi people. Looking into the future, administration officials said today that Iraqi opposition groups, including U.S. choices to run the country, will meet in southern Iraq as soon as possible to plan an interim government. But experts say none of this will happen quickly.
There will be a lot of expectations on the part of the people in Iraq for immediate gratification, for immediate satisfaction, and that's going to take some time.
Tonight, White House officials say this conflict could still take some dangerous turns before victory can be declared. Nevertheless, aides say the president views today's events as the tipping point between oppression and freedom in Iraq. David Gregory, NBC News, the White House.
Despite today's encouraging news on the war front, it was a down day on Wall Street. Concerns over first quarter corporate earnings pushed the Dow down more than 100 points. NASDAQ fell more than 26 points on the day. In a moment, reaction around the country to this astonishing news out of Baghdad today.
Lesson 1. Did you know a dog's muscles are rebuilt about every 45 days? In fact, his entire body is constantly rebuilding. But without enough protein in his food, the whole process slows down. That's why Purina One adult formulas are scientifically formulated with an unsurpassed level of high-quality protein to help you enhance your dog's life by keeping him strong and fit. Purina One brand. One can make a difference.
Hi, I'm Bob.
And I'm Charlie.
We're neighbors.
And our wives figured if we couldn't grow hair on our heads, we'd work on our lawns, and look what happened.
This lawn is a work of art. I use Scott Premium Grass Seed.
You put anything else on there, Bob, and you'd just be wasting your time.
See how thick this is? There's no weeds in that grass right there. The inferior brands have weeds, but the seed that Scott has is the purest seed you can get. Healthy, lush, green.
It comes up quick.
You interrupted me. The lawn is only as good as the seed you start with. Bald is beautiful.
That's right.
Except in your yard.
A definite edge. Cadillac CTS. Breakthrough.
With hearing loss, it's the little things you miss the most. That's why Beltone created the free Gift of Hearing video. It simply explains hearing loss and how new digital technology can help you hear better. Call 1-800-BELTONE today.
Hey, Bob. Hey. You get a new haircut?
No.
Hey, Bob.
Hey.
Did you lose weight?
New jacket, Bob?
Nope.
What's different? He finally asked his doctor about Viagra. Ready to ask your doctor about Viagra for the first time? Find out if a free sample is right for you. To learn more, visit Viagra.com.
Called the sitter, I walked the dog, and I saw the doctor.
Ask your doctor and see the difference.
Tonight at 6 on Channel 4 News.
The regime's fallen, but the war is not over. The latest from Iraq.
Another big announcement from the governor. Several hundred jobs coming to the mid-state.
And hot spots for terror attacks. Tonight, the nation's most vulnerable city.
Tonight at 6 on Channel 4 News. Coverage you can count on.
Even if it didn't exactly signal the end of the war, today's scene in Baghdad may wind up being the one that we will always remember, and the moment that captures the essence of liberation from a brutal regime. NBC's Roger O'Neill watching the reaction here at home.
Tears of joy, cheers of relief. As U.S. soldiers pull down the statue of a dictator.
There it is. There it goes.
City business took a backseat to the country's business in Oak Grove, Kentucky. It's personal here. Fort Campbell, home of the 101st Airborne.
It just made you really feel good to be an American and be a part of this.
A sweet taste in the Over Coffee Cafe next to Fort Stewart in Georgia. Angela Chadburn's husband, Major John Chadburn, is there, 3rd Infantry Division.
Wow, it's hard to express when you see the faces of the people over there who haven't had this freedom for so long.
Freedom is what many Iraqi exiles around Detroit were honking their horns for.
This is a happy day. We all feel we are born today.
Saddam's statue coming down is already one of those defining pictures in history. Like other haunting moments, people will remember what they were doing, where they were when it happened. Jason Mark will, vehemently against the war. He's now being asked, if it was so wrong for America, why are so many Iraqis cheering American soldiers?
The Iraqis are evidently pleased that the Saddam Hussein regime is at an end. That doesn't mean they're happy to have the Americans there.
The almost euphoric reaction today, perhaps more telling of the country's mood than any signal of the war's end. But as one soldier's wife said, what a breath of fresh air.
Freedom, Iraq!
In Seattle, celebrating for Iraq. But in most of America tonight, the celebration on hold until the troops come home. Roger O'Neill, NBC News, Fort Stewart, Georgia.
Some of our NBC stations will be leaving us now, but for those staying with us, I'll be back in a moment with the latest headlines, including international reaction to today's dramatic developments in Iraq.
Toppling terror in Iraq. Is it the end of Saddam? A scathing audit reveals some truths about TennCare. April showers turn into freezing rain and snow.
The end is near for this regime if it has not already occurred.
But first, history in the making.
Middle Tennessee's #1 news starts right now.